like him
The
as an
American people
actor.
were just focused on, the ideas that he was spewing. And it wasn't even just ideas. It was just, stating the obvious and pointing out a lot of things that Democrats may have been ignoring, like the border, like the economy. He said it himself, man. We won on one word: groceries.
That was from my conversation with Charlamagne the God for this week's episode of the Best People podcast. Donald Trump won on one word: the groceries.
Charlamagne the God is such a crazy name.
Catapulted Donald Trump back to the White House because, as our next guest says, the money matters. The new polling out today shows that Donald Trump has done little to address the very thing that won him the presidency a second time. According to AP NORC polling, 54% of Americans say that grocery costs are a major source of stress. That stress that voters are feeling
because the
does
previous
not appear to be
presidency caused insane inflation, right? Question mark?
Donald Trump's priority, as we just discussed, and Senator Elizabeth Warren points out, quote, "Oh, you're trying to say the cost of living is skyrocketing? Donald Trump can't hear you over the sound of bulldozers demolishing a wing of the White House to build a new grand ballroom." Joining me at the table, actor, musician, Michigander.
To be fair, he paid for
Thank
it himself and with donors, so it's not like.
How's it feel out there? I feel like that's always my question on and off TV.
Okay. I enjoy this actor. He's funny. And he's a good actor. I cannot get... What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to alter my view of him just depending on his viewpoint. This is MSNBC, so I just got to warn myself.
The No Kings protest, aside from the 8 million plus people that actually did,
I don't think it was 8. I don't think it was 8 million, but keep going.
Brought attention to what's going on. To the people who have checked out, who just can't deal with it. It's too much every day. I talk about when we did Newsroom, the Aaron Sorkin show. If we were to be still doing that now, we couldn't keep up. And even today, there's this, that, the other thing that the White House and this administration is doing, and people just go, ah. But I think that those who voted for him because they didn't want Kamala Harris or don't like Democrats, never voted for Democrats ever, are paying attention if things cost more. And that was one of the things he promised, like any president promised. I'm going to lower prices.
I mean, to be fair, every president does say that, but the last president we had really is the one that kind of caused the issue, perchance. At least the stock market's doing well right now, so kids, invest in the stock market. Don't be like your other loser friends. Be like the rich guys that make money when the stocks go higher. There's your PSA.
Well, if he does, great. He's a hero come the midterms. But if he doesn't, they're going to notice that. And it's not the people on the right who are going to stay with him, but it's the people who went with him because he promised that he'd make their lives better. And if they aren't better, he'll be, and the Congress and the Republicans in Congress will be like any other political party that didn't deliver.
It's interesting. We've talked a lot about decency.
Let's be honest,
and the lack
most parties don't deliver, so
coming from the guy in the Oval Office. And I think what has been explained over the last 9 years is that a lot of voters were willing to sacrifice decency and norms and traditions because they felt a little bit better about their economy. Either they thought his wealth was contagious, or they just thought because he was so wealthy, or they perceived him to be wealthy and successful, that he could scale that. When that goes away, I mean, there's a story in the New York Times today about records number of people defaulting
we're not going
on their
anywhere.
car loans. Most people need their car to go to work. There
Really?
is a housing crisis in this country. Groceries are more expensive, not less expensive.
Groceries are definitely expensive. Can't even deny that. The housing crisis. I will die on this marshmallowy hill. The housing crisis is due to lack of zoning re-regulation. We live in a world where these boomers created zoning in the 60s that the minimum lot sizes were so high, and mandating single family home areas. They built their houses on these tiny little postage stamps, and then they bumped up on a quarter acre, and now there's the minimum single family lot size is an acre or half an acre. It's like just double your densities on every zone and all across the board, and your housing crisis is gone. It's such an easy solution to get started and work on for the housing crisis that just all these boomers don't want to lose their value in their house, even though the value would go up because if they can now build 2 houses on their lot, their value goes up. So it just doesn't make any sense. This can't wait till these boomers get out of power. It's just going to be, well, it'll probably be just the next losers come in, but still.
And you see windows into even Donald Trump talking about the price of beef. I mean, that is real. That is undeniable. And that is getting worse.
Beef is high.
Do you think
decency
remains a luxury for people? Or do you think decency comes into focus when they realize that he hasn't made their economies better?
I would like to think that things like decency and civility and respect for the rule of law and respect for things that are bigger than you, including the office of the presidency, which is different than a monarchy, will matter. First,
yep,
it will be about the economy. It always is. Carville was right. It just is. And that's okay. But I think then people will start to go, well, maybe it wasn't worth it. And by the way, do we really have to treat people like that? You know, the meme that he had where he was flying with the crown and the, you know.
It's because you guys doing this is a joke to begin with. That's the whole point. That's the joke he's making. You guys are a joke because, not you guys, but like those specific people he's making fun of are a joke. So he's returning the favor with a joke. That's the joke that no one seems to be getting on their side, whoever they are. But that's the whole point. And this guy acts all humble and trying to be the voice of reason, and yet he's the one calling the president that was elected by the majority of the United States a king. It's just blows my mind.
Excrement all over the people down below.
The country, America.
Yeah, he's trying to. Would Lincoln have done that?
Lincoln took away liberties from ordinary citizens. He's the one that spew fact about Lincoln here. Insert fact about Lincoln here. I mean, just because we have a starry-eyed view of Lincoln, which I totally agree with, by the way, doesn't mean he didn't do things that made him feel like a king because he definitely took executive powers to, I can't remember what it was. What did he do? He took some serious executive powers, and like there was no election or something. What was it? I can't remember. But you want to talk about being a king? Lincoln, during the Civil War, took measures to save the country that would have seemed to this gentleman like it was something a king would do.
I don't think Nixon would have done that.
Nixon wouldn't have done it. You know, Reagan wouldn't have done it. Bush wouldn't have done it. Either Bush. You know, it just, you know, I think people in the Midwest, where I am, still have this, we value our decency and our civility, and you know, we don't get taken with whatever goes on the coasts. You know, we got a chip on our shoulder about that. And I think it matters. It may not matter right away when you're voting, but down the road, if he doesn't deliver on the economy like he promised he would, then that stuff will start to add up, and they'll get tired of it, and they'll vote for change, which is what they always do
It is crazy. We have only had
always changing. I was thinking about
10 months now. It hasn't even been a year.
I started listening to Led Zeppelin, and my dad was going, "What the hell is that?" You know, I mean, it changes. Every generation changes things, and we're in a place now where they want to change it back to whatever that was. And I don't think people are as afraid of change. And we'll find out at the midterms, but I don't think they're afraid of change. I think they wanted things to get solved, you know, economically, but I think when it comes to decency and civility and respect for the rule of law, which governs all of us, whether we're left or right, will matter again.
You played Jim Comey, and Jim Comey, I think, is the first political prosecution. Donald Trump had him indicted via social media post. Pam, hurry up and do it. I think they went through 2, 3, 4 people from an office that fled because the facts weren't there, but they found somebody. They found their gal, and Lindsay Halligan. Those facts are known, but I wonder if there was anything about Comey's response. He issues a video that says, "I'm not afraid, and let's have a trial." It seemed like it seemed like a line that you could deliver as Comey. It seemed like a very Comey response. I wonder if you have as much confidence as he does.
Seems like a very Comey response. What the heck does that even mean?
Political prosecution.
You know, I got to play him in the Comey role, and one of the things I learned about him was his the sacredness of the rule of law. And one person I talked to described him as a Boy Scout when it came to that kind of thing. And you can argue that he handled the Hillary announcement in the summer wrong, but come that fall and the month leading up to it, there were some things that happened that weren't his fault, and he took the blame for it. And I always respected him for handling that the way he did when he was basically hammered. And even now, with this kind of retribution campaign, and he's the star of the first one, he did something that Trump hasn't done. He said, "Let's go to court.
Yeah.
I'm innocent. Let's go to court." You know, Trump's always been, whether it was the Mar-a-Lago classified documents or go down a long list of stuff, he'd delay, he'd appeal, he'd do that, all the lawyer, you know, magic tricks he could do. Comey said, "No, let's go." I mean, I've always thought that if Trump were that innocent of some of this stuff, he'd go, "Let's go to court on Monday, and could you do it at 10? Because I'm going to schedule a tea time at 3, because this will be dismissed in half an hour, because I'm innocent."
He never wanted to face the evidence or the facts or jury.
But Jim will do it. Jim will do it, and that tells
I don't
me
understand.
that he's going.
I can't listen to this because it's like, it's just so exhausting when people just lie out of their butt. This fine gentleman, my opinion has not changed of this guy's acting career, but that's what he is. He's an actor. So why am I giving a crap what this actor has to talk about? This doesn't make any sense to me. You're half of the dumb. I don't know if you're dumb or you're dumber, but it's just get some perspective in life. That's all I gotta say. And he was great on the Manning cast. I fully enjoyed that. I like the Manning cast. I think he was great.